Hello, lovers! Welcome back to another episode of Live with Kristen Live, episode 7. I am here with my lovely co-host, Casper the Friendly Ghost. Hello, Casper. Ain't she a beaut? Just kidding. It is just me today. I am solo dolo and not able to ask anybody questions today, so awkward, but I'm going to make this work because I have a topic that I really want to talk to you guys about, and I have a couple theories that I want to get off of my chest, and I've been kind of keeping to myself and saving it for the podcast, of course. So if you notice, I have switched platforms from SoundCloud to YouTube officially because SoundCloud wanted to hate on the girl. And SoundCloud was like limiting my minutes to 3 hours, and then I have to pay a fee to have unlimited streaming and whatever. And I just feel like I'm not there yet to pay for a hobby. So until then, I'm going to be doing YouTube until I gather enough viewers to give me a reason to start investing into other platforms. So if you like the podcast, go ahead and share it with your friends, share it with people that you believe might be interested, and the more support that I have, then the more I will put into, or more energy that I will put into giving you guys more content, if you like it, that is. If you don't like the podcast, you could see yourself off of my page, because don't be disliking my podcast. Like, don't give me a thumbs down. Get the fuck out of here. You're not welcome. Anyways, so we're talking Kanye West today. Kanye West is a very hot topic because he's been coming out of hiding and has a lot to say. And he started tweeting back on Twitter. He's been raising a lot of eyebrows. And it is what it is. It's just Kanye being Kanye. So, I mean, are we surprised? We shouldn't be, but that's because he has an album coming out. So it seems like Kanye has come out of hiding to kind of remind you that he exists and to stir up the controversy in the best Kanye fashion. Now, let's just talk a little bit background about Kanye and his personality before we dive into the topics as to why we're talking about him in the first place. Kanye's personality is a very interesting type of personality. If any of you believe anything horoscopes, I know I do. Kanye is a Gemini, and for those of you that know about horoscopes, that must explain everything. You're probably turning off this podcast because you already know everything that there is to know already. For those of you that don't believe in horoscopes, just listen to this part and tell me if this reminds you of Kanye. Geminis are the type of people that are very unpredictable. They do what they want to do. They often have to be in control of certain situations. They're very inquisitive. They're very informed because they feel like they need to be one step ahead. Geminis are also portrayed as having multiple personalities, but it's not really that they have multiple personality. It's just that there's a split between their need to showcase what they want you to believe and how they really are. So sometimes they're kind of like in between the two. It's like a crisis. So, or just the Gemini discrepancy, basically. So, I mean, a good example of a Gemini is Tupac. It's my favorite example of a Gemini. I love Tupac. I love his music. I love some of his persona. I loved when he was super poetic and romantic and standing up for women. We gotta love our women, respect our women, treat our women right. But then you also had another side of Tupac, which was thug life, fuck everybody, shoot 'em up, I fucked your wife. So, I mean, it seems like that's two different people that would be saying that, at least if you were to take some certain songs and obviously forget that it's his voice. You might not be able to realize that it is the same person, the same ideas. Kanye is very much similar in that aspect. Kanye is very unpredictable. Kanye cannot be controlled. He does not like to be controlled. He likes to be in control. And Kanye also feels like he has like an inflated self-esteem. which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, let him think whatever he wants to think, right? Well, I guess in this past couple of days, wrong. So that's just his personality. Now, his personality comes into effect later on. We'll discuss different aspects as to why that's even important. But in recent news, Kanye has come under fire for his support of a very influential person in the United States, the Donald Trump. Donnie Trump. Y'all know how much of a fan of Donald Trump I am from my other podcasts, if you've listened. If you're just tuning in now, I am not a fan of Donald Trump. It is what it is. I can't even sugarcoat it. But Kanye decided it would be wise to change things up a little bit. Instead of doing the typical rapper that hates and bashes Donald Trump, he decided to go the other direction and say, you know what? I like Donald Trump. I love Donald Trump, actually. I have dragon energy. He has dragon energy too. He is my brother, and you can't force me to not support him. He also took it a step further to take a picture with the MAGA hat, the Make America Great Again hat, and he got it signed, and he posted it on Twitter and shared it with us. So a lot of people were outraged because of the MAGA hat thing. Now, sorry about the interruptions. There's some construction going on in my building, so bear with me. But a lot of people were offended at the MAGA hat representation because, and here's my take on it. Make America Great Again has a connotation of racism. And the reason why it has a connotation of racism is because the Make America Great Again campaign came right after we had our first black president. So it's kind of like saying, wait, you're making America great again because there was a black president, so you're trying to take back control? Or also, I mean, his biggest platform was the wall. That he wanted to build a wall and keep all the immigrants out, keep all of Mexico out. He wanted to send immigrants back to their countries and blah, 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 blah. So it's just kind of, further ensuing that Make America Great is saying, let's restore America back to the way that it used to be generations ago when whites were in control. And maybe that's me taking it too far. I don't know. But I think it is. And I don't think that there's very many people that don't agree with that. But obviously, the Make America Great Again campaign is denying that it's a racist campaign and whatever, even though a lot of white supremacists are leading the campaign. But anyways, I digress. So people were very mad that he was to wear this hat. Now, his response as to why he was wearing the hat was that, okay, well, I'm just taking the hat and I'm making it mine. I'm rocking it now. So yeah, maybe racist people, white supremacists were rocking the hat, but now I'm rocking it, so now I'm taking it and giving it a whole different meaning. One of the arguments that I was discussing was, it's kind of similar to how black people were able to take the word nigger and change it to nigga to be able to embrace the culture. And they took the word, changed it up a little bit, and then made it unusable to white people to kind of be like, there, we took back control of the word, and what? You can't say it, period. And it's been widely accepted. Now, can Kanye do the same thing with Make America Great Again? I don't think it's really the same thing. And the reason why I don't think it's the same thing is because I don't think that you could really take that and make it your own. Because, what are you going to say? Make America great again? Greater again? Because you have to change it up somehow so that there's a distinction between the difference of this was the white version and then this is now the cultural black version of it. I don't know. I just think that he's he's trying to do something, but it's just not really working. And I mean, who am I to say what's going to work and what's not? I guess we're going to kind of have to wait and see to see how it plays out. But Kanye is Kanye, and Kanye is always willing to push barriers and to try new things. And you can't help but, be, I guess, interested to see if it works or not. So we'll see. But as of right now, it doesn't seem like it's working that well because people are really upset about it. I don't even know so much how much the other side is embracing him, because one of the theories is that he's doing this to kind of gain the respect of the conservatives and to kind of get them to buy his album too. I don't think that's going to sway them in a certain direction. I haven't really seen much activity in that direction, or as far as Twitterverse is. I've seen more backlash. So, I mean, it could be working, it could not be working, I don't know. But it is something that's going on in the current moment. So, there was that whole issue. Now, here's where Kanye lost me. And actually, before I talk about where Kanye lost me, I'll talk about why he didn't lose me in the Donald Trump MAGA hat debacle. And I think a lot of people give him a pass. But I actually said from day one that I personally wasn't offended by him saying that he loved Donald Trump, and I wasn't offended by him wearing the MAGA hat, because I've never attached myself to Kanye. I've never attached myself to idolize Kanye in any way, shape, or form. I've actually met Kanye before at a concert backstage. Got a picture with him and Kim, and I posted it a while ago, but I've taken it down since. But he's just, I mean, it wasn't even like a wow moment. It wasn't a starstruck, and I do very much admire his talent. I think he's extremely creative, and I've rocked, I've downloaded his albums and supported whatever. But he's human, and I don't think anything that Kanye does is something that I predict. I feel like he's just unpredictable. So for him to act in a way that is shocking everybody is something that I would have seen. He is all about controversy and going against the grain. I don't think that Kanye has ever been a person to act like everybody else. He'll say whatever the hell is on his mind, and it is what it is. So, my response really to the whole Donald Trump situation is this. I think that in a sense he's kind of using like a reverse psychology tactic, because he did tweet this. He said, "Just think of someone you hate and try even saying to yourself that you love that person." Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. He may be saying that, I can't remember if that tweet came before the act of saying that he loved Donald Trump, but let's just say that it came after. Then he might be just tweeting that to save face, and it's kind of like, okay, well, let me PR crisis, let me figure this out so that I don't look crazy. This is just a game that I'm doing. Oh, I'm really saying that I love you, but I really hate you. Or, I'm just killing them with kindness or whatever. So it was the same exact thing that he did with the guy Ebro, that was scrutinizing him about what he was doing, blah, blah, blah. And he called him up on the radio station, and he was just like, "I love you." Nope, I just called just to say I love you. That's it. And that's all he had to say. But everybody was expecting a rant. Everybody was expecting him to go off on this guy because he had been talking shit about him. But he didn't. He just stuck to the plan of killing people with kindness, and now we need to have more positivity in the air and whatever. So I think that it's all part of his plan. Let me pick the most controversial person to say that I love them, and this is going to get everybody's attention, and it worked. So I don't know if he really does love Donald Trump and all of his, he said he doesn't, so we got to give him a pass, right? He said he doesn't. He said that he doesn't agree. He had to make this clear because Kim made him. He doesn't necessarily agree with everything that Trump does, but he does admire that he has dragon energy, and he believes that he himself has dragon energy, so that's what he admires about him. Which, I mean, that should be fine. We can't be mad at somebody for being able to look past differences and find similarities, because the reality is we can, with every single person in this world, probably find similarities to the craziest people. And when I say crazy, I mean even like a sociopath or something. You can find similarities, but that doesn't mean that you're 100% similar, and that doesn't mean that you're not going to disagree with a lot of things that they do. It is life. So for you to be completely different from somebody is just, I mean, that's not even realistic. So I also made the point of it's important that we don't celebrate celebrities because of what they do in their personal lives. We celebrate celebrities' art, not the person, their art. So I said I don't support celebrities because I agree with their personal opinions or how they choose to live their own lives. I simply admire talent, and if I enjoy their talent, I may buy, stream, or watch. Period. It's simple. But it seems like that's not really a popular way of thinking, because people do really get hurt when something like this happens, and when the artist surprises them outside of how they believe that they should be acting. It's kind of like the viewer or the entertainee feels the need to control the artist in a certain sense, I like your talent, I like what you offer and bring to the table, so I want to make sure that whatever you do is aligned with what I want you to do, or else I'm not going to support you anymore. If that was the case for me, I probably wouldn't listen to rap at all, because 90% of rappers are talking about how they don't value women and they disrespect women on a daily basis. They're hoes and they're tricks and women ain't shit. Fuck, these hoes ain't loyal, da-da-da. Like, do you think that I really believe that as a woman and that aligns with my beliefs? No, it doesn't. But guess what? I still listen to rap music because I'm able to separate entertainment from reality. And maybe that's not necessarily a good thing, because I'm not being responsible in what I'm supporting, but it's just something that we do. We watch movies, horror movies, where people are killing people and all kinds of weird shit, and for some reason we get off to it. But that's wrong, right? We shouldn't support stuff like that. We shouldn't put putting into the universe, or further allowing things to be put into the universe that are negative, right? But we do. So if we do, then why are we chastising Kanye for what he's doing in his personal life and saying, I'm no longer going to download Kanye's albums. I'm throwing away his albums, his whole discography. I'm deleting it. Why? The music is still good. It still sounds just as good, regardless of whether he was a freaking Trump supporter. I'm sorry, it is. But to each his own. I'm just saying, if you're going to do that, be consistent with who you're doing it with. And better yet, I'm not even going to support somebody acting like that. Just stop idolizing entertainers, because the reality is that they're in front of you to entertain. They're not in front of you for you to really personally get to know them. And that goes with models on Instagram. And this is one of the problems that I have a lot, because I feel like sometimes viewers are expecting, like, I'll get, oh, I followed you, but you didn't follow me back, so now I'm going to unfollow. Like, what? You followed me in the first place, not because of the intention for me to follow back, but you followed me because you liked what you saw. So you're going to unfollow because you're taking it personal that I don't know you and I'm not going to follow you back. It's just crazy to me that the entitlement of an audience is really affecting how people choose to support somebody. And at the end of the day, you're really hurting yourself, because you're taking away something that you enjoy because of your pride. because you can't separate reality from entertainment. But that is what it is. Now, moving on to the next thing. Kanye had my support. I'm okay, let me take that back. Kanye has my support entertainment-wise. Still, I did feel like I understood where he was coming from as far as a personal support. I still didn't completely feel like I knew him, but I felt like I was on track of understanding him and where he was coming from, at least with the Trump thing. But where he lost me was, and I don't know if you guys have seen the interview with TMZ, but basically he pulled up to TMZ and he, in Kanye fashion, went on a rant about how the scrutiny of the media has affected him, and it put him in a really dark place to the point where he even got liposuction because he didn't want to be called fat. And after the liposuction, he was given painkillers, and with the painkillers, he ended up becoming addicted to opiates. So that's kind of why we haven't seen Kanye in a while, according to him. This is his explanation. So he describes it as being in the sunken place, you know, because we always make fun of him about being in the sunken place. So, you know, that was his explanation. He was addicted. And I worked with a lot of addicts in my time of doing therapy, so I completely understand what that looks like, and it completely aligns with the whole timeline, to be honest. So I'm not denying that that's possible. That's a real explanation as to what happened. I believe him, and you know, we have no choice but to believe him because that's what he said. He said what he said. But then he went on to kind of talk about, I don't even know how one thing led to another, but he was saying basically he's acting the way that he is because he believes that people need to start changing their point of view and way of thinking. So that's where the whole Trump thing came from, and that's why he's behaving the way that he's behaving, because he believes that we need to get outside of our slavery-minded selves, that we're still oppressed technically, you know, we're still acting out upon the hurt from our ancestors and, you know, whatever. So then he was saying, we're the ones that need to make a change. 400 years of slavery occurred, and mind you, the 400 years includes now. So that's him saying that we're still slaves, technically. Slave mentality. So he was like, 400 years? That sounds more like a choice. Kanye. He's an extremist, though, guys. He really is an extremist. And I'm not making an excuse for him, but what I know Kanye to be, he has always been an extremist. So here's the thing, and here's my take on it. Slavery was clearly not a choice by those oppressed. It was a choice of the oppressor. They chained and beat and didn't allow anybody education, and you know, it was kind of like those years of slavery ended up, it wasn't, I don't think it was ever a choice, or it was more of an acceptance, you know, of reality. You know, if you're chained and you're beaten, if you try to step out of the box, it's going to push you back a little bit, because there's only so much that you can do. And Kanye West wouldn't have been the first slave to try to rebel. There's been many of slaves that tried to rebel, and slave owners that were killed, and they were penalized, of course, you know, so it wasn't ever at the scale I mean, in the beginning, it wasn't ever at the scale that it was able to change things, because they just had the power. They had more control. And there was a reason why they didn't let them go to school and be educated. So there wouldn't have been a Kanye West back in those days. There couldn't have been somebody who had an education enough to be able to speak their mind and to have an opinion and think deeply and express themselves like Kanye does today. It really is a privilege what he has now. And I think he just, in a moment, kind of forgot that. You know, he's so stuck in where he's at right now and how he feels today that it's hard for him to even view himself being put in that situation to not be able to make a difference or to change. And that's where I think Kanye is going with the whole thing. I think he's going with it saying there's no way in hell he could have been enslaved, because he's so powerful. Mind you, this is the guy that made an album called Jesus. He believes he is godlike. So in his mind, it wouldn't happen to him. That's where he's going with it. I don't think that it's, he was trying to diss or whatever, but it came off that way. It definitely came off as ignorant as hell, because, like I said, he's privileged. So he's speaking that way because he's privileged. But if he was ever really in that situation, strip him from all of his life experiences, it would have been a whole different story. And that's just what it is. So he definitely didn't think that one fully out, but he definitely has the right to be able to be wrong. Not the right to be wrong, but he's going to be wrong. He's human, guys. I'm human. I make mistakes as well. And I really honestly think that there is sometimes an issue with artists doing interviews and speaking out of turn, I guess you could say. And when I say out of turn, I mean unplanned speaking. So, like, in his head, it probably made sense what he was trying to say. And we're going to see when his album comes out a little bit more of him making sense, because he's able to write down his thought. He's able to organize his thoughts. And I think that he's somebody that expresses himself better through art. I don't think that he's ever been somebody that expresses himself well through interviews. He's always been erratic. So, I mean, it's just very common. So, now we'll get a little bit more into that a little bit deeper in this next segment. So, I just wanted to talk with you guys. One of my theories about what is going on with Kanye and why is he acting so erratic or so weird. Now, let me explain something to you guys. And I'm not ever excusing somebody for ignorance. It is what it is. But I can understand what's going on, or I can interpret and assess the issue. So, with me having some background experience of psychology and understanding the human mind and how it works, one of the things that we learned in school is grief, dealing with grief. And for those of you that don't know, there's actually 5 stages that humans go through, and I'm sure animals too, but that humans go through in order to grieve something. So the grieving process is basically dealing with loss and coming to terms with the loss so that you can move on with your life. It's a very, very important process, because if you don't ever go through the process of grief, you hold on to that baggage for however long until you finally face the music. So there's 5 stages of grief. There's also elongated versions. I think that there was one that was 7 stages, but it's kind of redundant, so I'm going to stick with the 5. So basically the 5 stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Now, some people never get to the last stage of acceptance. They kind of rotate from, maybe, and sometimes it's even out of order. They might go straight from denial to depression. They might go from anger to denial. It's not really like a clear cut, everybody's different kind of thing. But the goal is to obviously accept the situation and to make a change in your life so that you can adjust. But some people never even get there. I believe that Kanye is stuck somewhere in the stages, and I'll kind of talk about that a little bit. So basically, the denial stage, the first stage, is kind of numbing yourself to the emotions. You don't want to feel anything right now, so it's kind of like a defense mechanism that makes you ignore the facts. You keep it moving. Kanye, what are we even talking about? What is he grieving? So for those of you that watch him on Twitter, it's evident that it seems like he's still holding on to the passing of his mother and how it's affected his life. So his mother passed in 2007, in November of 2007. So it's almost 11 years ago. And I mean, a lot of people would think that you could grieve within that amount of time. I know me personally, I lost my mother in 2009. I was able to grieve her death pretty quickly. I would say within 2 years, I was healed to the point of acceptance. And my faith helped me get through that. But it seems like Kanye is struggling still to this day with it. And I mean, it definitely is hard dealing with loss when it comes to like a medical procedure, because you feel like you trust the doctors in order to ensure that everything happens safely and whatever, you know, so there's always something to blame. So anyways, I digress. But basically, the denial thing comes into effect with Kanye because I think he went right back to work way too fast. He continued to tour 5 days after she passed. 5 days is really not a lot of time to grieve. So it's kind of like, yeah, he definitely brushed it to the side, and he was probably in denial, or he was self-medicating. I don't know what he was doing. But to be able to perform 5 days later after you lose your mother, who in interviews he's described as being his everything. So I think that stage did occur for him. Then the anger stage, the number 2 stage of grief. So anger is kind of like the blame game. You don't know who to direct this emotion to. Basically, you weren't even ready to feel this emotion in the first place, and it's kind of like, this is unfair. Like, why me? So you have to place the blame on someone because you have all of this emotion. You have to like process it. You have to direct it somewhere, take it out on something. So it seems like Kanye took it out on the doctor that performed the surgery. I mean, rightfully so. If somebody that you loved had a surgery and passed away shortly after it, you're going to think that person is responsible, right? So they did go after the doctor. The doctor's name is, the surgeon's name was Jan Adams. They did go after him legally to do investigations and to make sure that there was no negligence. And they weren't able to process a lawsuit against him. So he was able to get off, and usually when that happens, that means that there was no evidence to support that they had a case. So, and he actually explained this to Kanye in an open letter that Kanye shared on Twitter recently, kind of saying, well, hey, you know, like, now that you're healing, I want you to know the facts. And mind you, in denial stage, you don't want to face any facts because it brings too much emotion. But the doctor took it upon himself to say, okay, well, now that you're ready to heal, you're ready to know the facts, I'm going to share it with you. So here's what happened. And he shared the whole story. Basically, the doctor was putting the blame on the aftercare of the procedure. He said, we did the procedure to, you know, however it was supposed to be performed, and it was a success. The procedure happened perfectly. But what was an issue was she didn't have somebody responsibly taking care of her after, because that's when she had the chest pain. She could have been she was supposed to be elevated, and she wasn't elevated or something, and that's why she had the chest pain. And anyways, from the doctor's perspective, he wasn't at fault. So he understands that Kanye is trying to heal and trying to forgive, but he doesn't feel like he should be even blamed in the first place. But anyways, that is the anger. It's like we're going to either be mad at the person that we can be mad at, or we might even be mad at the person that we lost, because it's kind of like a resentment that, why did you leave me like this? And it's not really something that can ever be dealt with in a manner that you can accept, because how are you going to be angry at somebody that you love that's not here anymore? That's not going to get you anywhere. But that does start to occur in that stage. So then you start to notice certain parts of your life, you start to change them because of that anger. You start to push people away. That same time period is when he broke off the engagement with his fiance at that moment. I forgot her name, but Pfeiffer was the last name. But he broke off the engagement with her, so he was isolating. He was creating an album. He kind of put all of that energy into that album. That's when he created the 808s and Heartbreak album, which contained Heartless, and it was like a little more emotional driven music. So it just kind of seemed like a different Kanye, you know. Now I don't know if he stayed in the anger stage the whole time he was making that album, but I mean, I just think that it was very evident that a loss kind of sparked a chain of events with him. Also, that was shortly around the time that he did the Taylor Swift thing, so it just kind of seemed like a lot was going on with him. So then the third stage is bargaining. Bargaining is a tricky stage because you're trying to regain control in a certain way, and it's kind of like you make if-only deals. You might start making pleas with God or whatever you believe in. Like, for example, if you save this person, I promise I will attend church from now on every Sunday. You're making a deal with something to make a certain outcome. But the reality is, you're not God. You cannot control the outcome of life. So chances are you're going to be highly disappointed, and it'll lead you to the next stage. So it seems like Kanye, I believe that Kanye might be stuck in the bargaining stage because, for example, with the album cover, he's like, I'm going to use Jan Adams, the surgeon that killed my mom, for the cover because I want to forgive. And it's kind of like that's like a testament, or that's like an act that he's doing in order to begin the healing process. He thinks that if he does A, B will happen, but that might not necessarily work. And it obviously didn't work because the doctor came back and, you know, shared the letter and also said, I don't want to be on the cover. You know, I want to share these facts with you, but I would appreciate it if you cease and desist using my photo. So it didn't work. But anyways, that's what bargaining is. So an attempt to regain control. Now, in the case of having a control freak go through the grieving process, that's usually where they get stuck because they're going to keep on trying to control the situation. And then what happens when they realize that they can't? Depression ensues. So the depression ensues because none of your attempts to regain control work. So you start to feel hopeless, and it's like a crisis, especially for somebody that is a control freak. It's foreign for them to be powerless and to realize that they're not that powerful. Some people, it makes them, and some people, it breaks them. And for those that it makes them, they realize that they're not that powerful, so they have to change their mentality. They need to adopt a different perspective to be able to adjust and regain control of their life. And not regain control of their life, but it's very freeing to be able to admit, I'm not that powerful. I need to basically surrender to the situation. I need to accept that this situation is what it is, and I need to move on. So, for example, with him losing his mother, nothing that Kanye does is going to bring his mother back, and that's just the facts of it. So you just need to accept that she's no longer here. You can celebrate her life all you want, but she's not going to be here. All of the anger, all of the depression, all of the bargaining is not doing anything except hurting you. So you need to let go of that control. Once you let go of that control, it makes things it takes that weight off of your shoulders. So acceptance is the ideal step. So that's step number 5. But like I said, because he's a control freak, that makes the stage extremely, extremely difficult and not realistic. So that's where the crisis happens. And until Kanye lets go of the control, that he is not that powerful, that Kanye cannot end slavery single-handedly, that Kanye cannot ever bring forgiveness in his heart by using somebody as an album cover, that he's still going to have these feelings and emotions, and they're normal. They're normal. Nothing that Kanye does is going to be necessarily programmed as working. Kanye wearing a MAGA hat is not going to end hatred and not going to give power back to black people over white people and white hate and black hate. It's not going to end racism. Not every step that he takes in a certain direction is going to be monumental. Some may not. But it's very important to focus on what you can control rather than what you can't. And I think that would be the advice that I would have for Kanye if he was sitting right in front of me. Because focusing on what you can control is putting that creativity into the album. That's something that you can control. That's something that, whether or not the album gets done, that you don't have to rely on anybody else except yourself for that. But all this other stuff is an experiment. And to look at it as that, because it may work, it may not work, but don't have any expectations that this is 100% foolproof, because it's not. Nothing in life is guaranteed. So that is just my theory as to where Kanye went wrong and where he can go right. But the question is, for you guys, are we really mad at Kanye for thinking he is a god when we already knew that about him the whole time? Or should we be mad at ourselves for idolizing him and expecting that we can control him? What makes us entitled to control the thought process of Kanye West? And I'll just leave you guys with that thought. Tell me what you guys think. Sound off in the comments, and maybe I'll bring back this topic for my next podcast. But I hope you guys found it informative and interesting, and I love rocking with you guys on my day off. Take care, guys. Mwah.